Up next is the greatest Magic the Gathering card ever printed. Ronas the Indomitable. It is strong. It is powerful. It makes your other creatures more powerful, and it destroys almost anything in combat. It's the perfect card, the best card ever printed.
You're full of it.
Silence! My trial, the trial of strength, is great as well. It gives its controller a 4/2 green beast every time it enters the battlefield. It also makes me able to attack or block, which is fantastic.
You know, beasts are normally supposed to be 3/3.
Enough! Get back to reviewing more cards!
Alright, anyway, next up is this really awesome Naga dude called Vizier of the Menagerie, and I kind of recognize this artwork. Is this where I am right now?
Don't be ridiculous. I would never take you to a zoo.
Anyway, the thing is, this seems like a pretty cool card in similar vein to something like Oracle, Mudaya, Courser of Cruelfix, except it's for creatures and not lands. However, it does give you a bit of a, I guess you could say, the flexibility of using whatever mana you want to cast whatever creature you like. Plus, of course, being able to get cards from the top of your library, similar to like a future side effect, is, well, pretty good, and it'll also warn you about what's coming, so you'll have a bit of insight as to what to do as you draw your cards. Speaking of creatures, Green, of course, got some pretty bombastic creatures in the set, starting off with the Honored Hydra. I do kind of wish this thing did something a little bit more. It's just a big 6/6 creature with trample, but honestly, it does have Embalm, and I feel like Embalm, well, will be pretty well put to use. It's not quite as bombastic as a Primeval Titan, but that Embalm is a little bit reduced, so you will basically get 2 6/6s over the course of a game, and that's not too awful. Like I say, Green does have a lot of ways to ramp into stuff, so you'll likely get this out before turn 6 anyway. Now, one card I really liked growing up was Elvish Piper. Being able to cheat in a creature as an activated ability was really, really sweet, as you got to just play whatever you like for just 1 green mana. But now, we have something very similar, except you just have to attack with it. The Champion of Rojas will just give you any creature you like, just by not allowing it to untap on your next untap step. The Champion of Ronas will allow you to get a creature in for play for free if you just say, you don't untap during my next untap step. Honestly, this may actually replace Elvish Piper in most of those decks, if decks do run Elvish Piper, but frankly, I feel like this will see some play in Standard, and will likely see some play in other decks in Modern, and likely, maybe even Legacy, although it is a bit of a stretch. Just think about it, getting in an Emrakul and ramping into this creature, that's pretty sweet, especially for Modern. Sadly, you can't do that in Standard anymore, because Emrakul is banned. And it's not the Emrakul that I'm crazy about anyway. Next up, we have the Prowling Sauropard. Sauropard? It doesn't matter what it's called. The point is, it's a cross between a serpent and a leopard, and yeah, it's a cat snake. Yeah, we get the pun wizards. This kitty here cannot be countered, but in addition to that, he's also pretty pushed. A 4/3 for 3 is usually a very good deal, and in addition, it makes all your other creature spells uncounterable. Dang, that really just blows things wide open, and wow, that really does kind of can push a lot of people's buttons. This thing may just replace Gaia's Herald in any deck that card is played in, but in addition, it can also take the place of something like, I guess, Luxodon Smiter if you really want to, although it will die to a Lightning Bolt. It is a very pushed card, but I don't think it's broken by any means of the imagination. Now, one thing that I don't really get is why on earth so many green creatures have these -1/-1 counter abilities. It just seems like a recurring theme. Here's this thing that allows you to ramp, but the bad thing is that when it runs out of -1/-1 counters, it, well, is not going to be able to produce mana, but the good news is you'll have a pretty big creature. This thing, or mechanic, I could say, it doesn't have a name, it's just drop a bunch of -1/-1 counters on a bunch of green creatures, seems to be, well, pretty relevant, as there are a lot of cards that do start out with some -1/-1 counters, but there are also a lot of cards that remove -1/-1 counters. Frankly, I think honestly these may actually work as better counters for -1/-1 counters. I don't really know too many decks in constructed formats that play with these cards, but if you do run a deck with these creatures, you will likely have a use for these. While it's not quite a Crow-Sun Tusker, the Shifet Monitor will give us a land. It's kind of neat because it allows us to get basic lands or deserts, which we'll get to later in this set. But honestly, I feel like this can be very well played, considering Crow-Sun Tusker was played a lot in its, well, standard cycle, and this may be no different. It does cost a little bit more to cycle, but it's still a very powerful creature, and it does have a very relevant effect. Speaking of more cycling, we also have Haze of Pollen. Although fog effects are pretty nice, there are some matchups where they aren't the most useful, so giving it a cycling ability is actually pretty nice. And honestly, let's just face it, who doesn't love a fog? While it's not exactly a reprint, Sixth Sense is very similar to that aura from Planar Chaos, which is similar to Curiosity. If you played the Auras deck that we're having trouble finding that aura, I can't remember the name off the top of its head, this will be a wonderful substitute if you'd like to run the Bogle deck. Since it wasn't a reprint exactly, Aronas, do you mind telling us what reprint screen got?
Giant spider.
Really? That's it? I'm really giving up here. Come on, man.